What we learned from Darren Fletcher's first game as Man United manager. Today, we're going to be diving into the tactics, the formations, and the statistics to analyse Darren Fletcher's first game as United manager. If you're new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video. But anyway, let's get this party started. So starting with formation, Darren Fletcher went away from the three at the back, setting United up in a 4-2-3-1 with Bruno Fernandes back in his natural number 10 position. This is a big thing for Manchester United, giving Fernandes the freedom to move around the pitch. But in terms of the interesting sides of Fletcher's setup, number one was the midfield diamond they created. Matheus Cunha hasn't played on the right-hand side for Manchester United. This was one of the surprises in Fletcher's selection. Cunha moving into a central position to basically create a diamond, with United being set up in a 3-diamond-3 shape. This of course was created with Cunha moving inside, Bruno Fernandes moving to the tip of the diamond, Casemiro at the base and Ugarte as a left-sided central midfielder. What this gave United was great control in central areas, allowing them to circulate the ball and create chances. Of course, any modern shape needs width. That was created by the forward movement of Diogo Dalot and the width held by Dorgu on the left-hand side. United looking like a very modern team. Of course, this was the basic setup, but as Fletcher said, the game is very much in evolution right now, where the fluidity in terms of how different phases look is all going to change through. What I liked about the setup for Darren Fletcher was the positioning of Luke Shaw in very much a supporting fullback role, not only getting on the ball in those deep areas to kind of drive passes inside, but also the ability to overlap Dorgu in the final third or even change positions at times. But this was the setup for Man United, a 4-2-3-1 with an inside forward or a wide playmaker on the right wing that would tuck inside. So the second thing that we learned from Darren Fletcher's first game in charge is that he will feed his centre forward. Rasmus Højlund was a pacey channel striker, whereas Joshua Zirkzee is a false 9 who does his best work in the number 10 area. The issue for both players is they've been used as target man by previous managers, meaning that they've got to play up against physical centre-halves in the Premier League before competing and releasing wingers or wing-backs. What's more is that the wingers would rarely look to create for the duo, which resulted in both of them ranking in the bottom percentile for Premier League strikers for shots taken. But in Fletcher's first game against Burnley, that all changed. Instead of using inverted wingers, left-footers on the right and right-footers on the left, Fletcher actually deployed natural side wingers against Burnley. Patrick Dorgu on the left-hand side and Matheus Cunha or Bruno Fernandes on the right wing, with width, of course, being maintained by Diogo Dalot in those advanced areas. Once again, another right footer. What this meant for Manchester United is they could put balls into the box, natural side wingers to feed Benjamin Sesko with crosses, which doesn't just suit his skill set, but in fact it fed him chances. Sesko's 7 shots on target was the most of any player in a single Premier League game this season for any football club. United completed 8 crosses against Burnley, not just the most in a single Premier League game this season, but the most since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was permanent manager. Sesko is a very good aerial attacker. He had a 28% chance conversion with his head in the Bundesliga, and whilst he's still yet to convert in the Premier League, he's been denied by great saves from his headers. Take this one on 43 minutes. We pick up the play with Ugarte in possession after United have released Dorgu with a long ball from deep, another stylistic change under Darren Fletcher. Ugarte finds Casemiro, plays the ball wide to Dalot. From this position, Diogo Dalot could attack the fullback. He could get the ball in the box. But tactically, from the movement of Bruno Fernandes, it's created a bit of space for Casemiro to cross from deep. He gets his head up and he sees Benjamin Sesko in the box, on the blind side of the centre-half. The ball gets played and Sesko gets up so well. United need to start feeding the Slovenian international. Not only is his jump reach absolutely incredible, but his ability with his head is good. United need to do this more. And Sesko's shot is well saved by Dubravka. But this type of idea is so important for United going forward. They need to feed their big striker. In fact, in this game, Dubravka made 6 saves, the second most he's managed in a single Premier League game this season. But it wasn't just early crosses that saw Fletcher's United look for Sesko. A lot of their attacking play was focused through him in the first half, with players in deep positions looking to find his feet for him to lay the ball off and move it on. In the first half though, Sesko struggled. Maybe that's down to confidence. These 2 goals should improve that. He managed to just complete 54% of his passes in the first half. And by extension, this saw a lot of United's attacks in the first 45 breaking down, leading to a very low XG count. You've got to give credit to Burnley, they did well to block out the centre of the pitch, not just giving Sesko less room to operate in, but also limiting the involvement of Bruno Fernandes in the first 45. But at half-time, Fletcher changed things up and showed his tactical acumen. Fletcher swapped Bruno Fernandes and Cunha, not only getting Cunha closer to his favoured inside left position, an area that he dominated the Premier League with Wolves in, but also getting Bruno Fernandes into a slightly wider area, creating more space for him to operate in. And United were rewarded just 4 minutes into the second half. We pick up the play with Bruno on the right, with Cunha very much in a second striker position, making a run in behind the defence. As the ball's recycled through United's right hand side back into the feet of Aiden Heaven, Casemiro drops to get on the ball. At this time we can see that diamond that we spoke about previously, created with real fluidity. Casemiro at the base, Ugarte in a high position, Cunha on the last line and Bruno in almost a right-sided diamond position. This caused Burnley so much problem dealing with this, as we see Burnley's central midfielder get drawn out of position. No one is picking up Bruno Fernandes, who now has a lot more space than he did have in the first half. Bruno's first touch is good, but just look at the movement of Benjamin Sesko, coming from one centre-back on the blind side of another centre-back. The arc of his run is absolutely superb, and of course Bruno Fernandes has got the vision to find him, and the finish is instant with his right foot into the bottom corner. Sesko deserves a lot of credit for that move off the ball, but also to Darren Fletcher's diamond, which opens up Burnley's midfield. And just taking a look at that goal from a tactical perspective, we have Bruno Fernandes operating in a high position, Sesko operating on the far side of the pitch, and Cunha making a forward run, being supported by Ugarte in that central position. This is much better for Manchester United, and as we mentioned before, that creation of the diamond really allowed United to overload the midfield area. In terms of Burnley's defensive shape, at times they jumped into a 4-4-2 structure to press United, but in their own half, they were a back 5. So getting more bodies on the back line for Manchester United with Diogo Dalot as well on the overlap allowed them to create this structure and create that goal for Benjamin Sesko. But I also think Fletcher made this change was for a defensive reason. Cunha was poor in dropping back in the first half and left Diogo Dalot exposed on a number of occasions, whereas Bruno Fernandes has that dogged defensive work rate that will drop back and protect his fullback. And the issue came in Burnley's first goal, Cunha being very lazy in a defensive sense. As we pick up the play, Burnley carry into United's half. Already there is a 3-on-1 on Diogo Dalot. This forces Casemiro to move over and try and help out his teammates. Where you want Matheus Cunha in this position is basically sat in front of Diogo Dalot. This is lazy. This is something that needs to improve. Matheus Cunha hasn't done enough for me going forward yet at United. And if defensively this is what he does, there needs to be big improvement under the new management. So as the play progresses, we see Casemiro is drawn over. It's still a 3v2 on the flank. But consequently, with the poor positioning of Matheus Cunha, you've got a problem. So instead of this being Matheus Cunha challenging the ball right now and being able to kind of help out in this 3v2 situation, he's still in no man's land. And yes, Casemiro should be better in terms of tracking the run, but naturally he would be in a better position in defensive midfield to cover this run if Cunha is back in position. This consequently leads Heaven to move over and defend the cross with his left foot. Again, got to go with his right foot in this situation. We can't blame him, a young defender who's playing as a right-sided centre-back, even though he's predominantly left-footed. Again, a little tactical or thing that he needs to do here is just make the block with his right foot, because it's less likely for this to happen, where he flicks a boot out and it goes over the goalkeeper into the back of the net. But that all comes from poor positioning for Matheus Cunha, but Fletcher fixes it in the second half. Another massive tick in Darren Fletcher's short managerial career. But going back to the positives, after United's equaliser, Fletcher's ideas really came into fruition, with that fluid diamond causing Burnley all types of problems. Once again, it massively overloads Burnley's midfield. They were set up with 2 holding midfielders, but Man United at times overloaded it with 4, plus the width of Diogo Dalot, obviously on that right hand side. side, with United creating a little bit of a back three in possession at certain times, with the width on the left being held really well by Dorgu. But in terms of threats, not only was it the issue of getting players in between the lines and turning for United, but also it was the movement off the ball. United now are going to be a lot more direct. This is classic Manchester United. They will play passes from the base of their defence over the top to get players in behind. And we saw Bruno Fernandes do this without being tracked, and he hit the post. So we pick up the play with Martinez in possession. Tactically, United are set up exactly what we just looked at on the tactics pad. As Martinez gets his head up, Bruno Fernandes makes a run beyond the back line, and the ball breaks to him in behind the Burnley defence. He cracks a shot which flies off the post. But this is all possible because of how many bodies United have in between the lines. It's difficult for Burnley to pick up everyone, hence why Bruno Fernandes has sneaked in behind and hit the post. But going to other ideas about this shape and structure, not only did United make great moves in behind and link the play on the right side, but also on the left with Manu Ugarte. One of the big problems when kind of playing a team that's operating with this shape and structure is you can use bounce passes to get behind the opposition with players positioned in between the lines. Because it's Ugarte, your defensive midfielder, almost you go a little bit under the radar, which means you can pop combinations like we saw for United's second goal, where the ball is either fired in from the centre-back position into the feet of Ugarte, or alternatively it's worked wide, then inside, and the 1-2 is utilised. But once again, United naturally getting more crosses into the box because of Dorgu's left foot. But this was difficult for Burnley to deal with because of the threatening nature of United's midfield diamond. And let's take a look at that in action. United on the right hand side moving the ball to the left. We can see that diamond structure. This time Matheus Cunha, who's usually at the tip, has dropped off a little bit. Again, the fluidity in this shape was apparent in the game against Burnley. As United work the ball left, Luke Shaw creates a really good option. If you just notice that little step there, he moves inside, which creates that easy pass out wide to the winger that Martinez can find. But still, we can see the formation of the diamond. That diamond almost moved flank to flank to get on the ball. Again, nice ideas between relationalism and positional play. For everyone that has been on the channel for a while, you know about those types of things. But as the ball's played wide to Dorgu, you could see the 1-2 opportunity. But just look at the Burnley centre-back, number 29. He's almost 3 or 4 yards off Ugarte. He doesn't want to directly go man for man. He's a bit unsure what to do. And that indecision creates that opportunity where Dorgu drops the ball on the inside to Ugarte. Ugarte reaches in behind the defence, and then it's all about Benjamin Sesko's movement. What I love about this is Sesko once again is away from the play. It's like Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland always attacks the back post, always on the blind side of defenders before then making a move. And with him in this position, not only is he attacking an outside centre half versus a centre back that naturally might be a bit better defender, but also the movement's great. Steps on the back foot to kind of almost pretend that he's going to make that run on the blind side before flying in front, and the ball from Dorgu's good, but the finish is absolutely superb. The quality of Benjamin Sesko is really here to see. You know, that ability to shift your defender, make a run on the outside, then the inside, then open yourself up to finish off this cross. It's a great goal. And that is something that Benjamin Sesko has got. All he needs is confidence. He will score goals at Manchester United. It's one of these things where you look at his profile as a striker, he's tall, he's quick, and he can finish. His link play at times is really good. Think about the first half where he did a back heel to Dorgu after receiving a ball into the channel. Sesko could be a very, very good forward, but just needs players to create chances for him, and we did see that against Burnley. And the third thing we learned from Darren Fletcher's first game as Man United manager is that he wants to win the game. He wants to add more attackers, and he wants to commit for the 3 points. His substitutions for me were fantastic. Not only changing the tactical makeup with certain changes, but also maintaining the balance. The first change he made, of course, was probably more of a fitness thing. Bruno Fernandes having to go off, having had a muscle injury, with Mason Mount joining the team. The setup was very similar. Again, Heaven came off, and Lenny Yoro came into a centre-back position. But the structure was the same. The diamond now was created with Mason Mount moving inside, with Ugarte again still playing quite high. So tactically exactly the same. But what I liked about his next changes was it affected how United set up. Of course, Joshua Zirkzee was a straight swap for Matheus Cunha, coming into almost a striking position. At times, it did look like a little bit like a 4-4-2. But also bringing on Kobbie Mainoo into central midfield, playing more of a 6-8 than 2 6s as he previously had. What that meant for Man United is actually tactically they changed a little bit. And the shape moved to more of a 3-2-5. Again, trying something different. That, of course, was created with Mason Mount moving inside with Joshua Zirkzee, supporting Benjamin Sesko, Dorgu still holding the width, Delo still holding the width, and United creating a back three of Luke Shaw, Martinez, Lenny Yoro with a double pivot in terms of a 6-8 combo. Again, different lines, which creates different passing angles and so forth, of Ugarte and Mainu. Once again, United doing well in that shape and structure. And then what I like about now, so not only have you tried something else, you started with that kind of diamond idea, you've then moved to this kind of structure. Once again, bringing the changes and changing the shape. This is very good from any manager. And not only was it about like kind of being more offensive, but it was taking off a defensive midfielder. So his next change, of course, was Manu Ugarte coming off and Shea Lacey coming on, a player that all United fans want to see on the pitch. And no, he didn't go into defensive midfield. Once again, Fletcher changed his setup, which looked a little bit like a 3-diamond-3. That, of course, being Kobbie Mainoo as a sole pivot. Again, you're basically playing an attacking player in the base of your midfield who's very good in possession. Mason Mount moved to kind of a right-sided diamond position. Zirkzee as that middle player. Diogo Dalot tucked in. And Shea Lacey, of course, played on the right wing, which allowed Man United to have two proper wingers in those wide areas. But also the difference, as we mentioned previously, how United have played kind of with more natural width in Dorgu on the left-hand side. Now United had a player that was unnatural in a sense of an inverted winger. Once again, changing the tactical or the kind of game dynamics. You now got a player on that side that can cut in and shoot at goal. This idea of changing things and making attacking changes is very good, but also the use of Diogo Dalot now as a support player in central midfield. Tactically, this is all fantastic for me, and we saw United create two chances, which were down to individual moments from Shea Lacey. The first coming from a very punchy switch of play. We pick it up on the left-hand side, Dorgu dropping the ball back to Mainoo. Mainoo breaking the lines to find Mason Mount in loads of space. We could see the fluidity already there for United. Mount lets the ball roll across him and then finds Shea Lacey out wide. Once again, United have basically pulled Burnley from one side to the other and created a 1v1 situation. But also the attacking movement of Diogo Dalot cannot be missed in this move because he pulls defenders away that allows Shea Lacey to cut inside and crash a shot that hits off the bar. This lad has got some serious talent. His ball striking at this age with the power, considering how tall he is very reminiscent of Phil Foden. But moving forward, again United looking to create opportunities with that wing play. A long ball up, winning the second ball. Again, there's a lot of compactness there. We see Joshua Zirkzee at the tip of the diamond. He's laying it off to Diogo Dalot on the right side of the diamond. We can see Mainoo, Mount in shot. They're going to win that ball. They've overloaded that area of the pitch. But once again, United creating a 1v1 situation for Shea Lacey. Once again, the movement's good from Diogo Dalot. He understands his role here. He needs to pull the defenders away. He drags two away, which creates space for Lacey to cut inside into massive space just outside the box and crack a shot from about 30 yards that's just meters away from going in. Once again, Darren Fletcher deserves a lot of credit for changing the attacking style of United, changing the personnel, changing what they're going to do, and then having faith in a young player. It's a big, big thing for Manchester United. And then going forward, Darren Fletcher's spell at United, be it 2 games, is going to be a good one. For me, future Manchester United manager. I really believe that. But I think one of the biggest things from this game, again, the inconsistencies of some of the players within United's team, independent of what Man United were going to do with Ruben Amorim in the window, when they were going to get rid of him in Jan, wherever. The squad is exactly the same. United still need a number 6. They still need a number 8. They still need a right back and they still need a left back. It's exactly the same. So now we've got to start questioning who is making these decisions and who is not doing their work, who is not doing their job, who's not putting their ego aside and doing the right thing for Man United. Because quite frankly, if, for example, you bought a new left back that could play with Dorgu, that can overlap, but as well can defend and play an attack, yes, you would improve that left-hand side. On the right-hand side, of course, Diogo Dalot is more of a reserve fullback. Putting an attacking wing-back in that position would have been better for this shape. Again, a hole in the United squad. And I don't really need to speak to you about central midfield, do I? Because that would be a waste of all of that time. But anyway, guys, Darren Fletcher's first game in charge as Man United manager. Dream come true for me. Favourite player growing up. Also a great guy. Met him personally. What a fantastic individual. Love what he did with United against Burnley. United should have won that game. They created a load of chances and they played some good football. Back to the old school days. But anyway, get into the comments below. What did you make of Man United's 2-2 draw with Burnley and Darren Fletcher's first game in charge as United manager? I've been Statman Dave. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.
Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, why not check out some more content on the Statman Dave YouTube channel?